Yo, good morning, everybody. Sorry the light is like reflecting in that picture, but want to make a quick video for you guys today. Friday we went over the 4 stages of learning, and today I want to talk about something that kind of correlates with those, and that's called the teaching edge. And what this is as we're going through, those 4 stages of learning, it's very important that we realize that how we learn in those stages matters. And so the teaching edge, what it is it stands for explain, demonstrate, guide, and enable. And so if you're leading a team or you're starting your business and you're hiring, training, or just for yourself as you're learning, growing, as you're making your cold calls, and you identify that you're in one of those stages, whether it's you're in the forming stage where you've got that high excitement, that high skill or high excitement, low skill. You're excited because you're starting something new, but you don't know what you're doing, and we're in that, unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. It's very important that we realize how we need to learn when we're in that stage. And so the teaching edge goes hand in hand with this because it gives us examples of how we need to be taught when we're in each one of those stages. So when we're in that first stage, a forming stage, it's very important that we realize what we need right now is to be explained. So people, when we're trying to learn a new skill, whether it's sales, baking a cake, whatever. I actually learned all this at Scout Camp when I was really young. I took a leadership course when I was about 14, and they gave the example of 5 Boy Scouts trying to learn how to cook dinner on a camping trip. And so what happened was the leader came and said, "Hey, you guys are cooking dinner." And they were all excited. We're gonna make our. I think they were making stew, something super easy. You just dump the can in. But the leader came, and when everybody was excited, he explained what you do. You get your stove set up, you get it lit, you put your pot on there, put a little vegetable oil, or spray the pot down so it doesn't stick. Dump your can in. Once it starts boiling, your soup's ready. And that worked great. Well, then in their example, the scouts went and tried it, and the soup stuck, and they didn't get it, and they got discouraged. And they went into that second stage, a storming stage, which is, just to recap on last video, that's we have low excitement and low skill. And remember, if you're starting something new, especially in entrepreneurship and sales, anything like that, this is where people quit because all of a sudden the excitement's gone. We now know, remember, we're now in conscious incompetence. We now know there's tons that we don't know, and we get discouraged and we want to give up. And it's very important to realize when we're in this kind of stage. Have you ever heard the term seeing is believing? This is where demonstrating comes in. You need to see to believe. And so when people are excited, it's kind of like when you started a new job. If you went to like an orientation class or the interview, they explained the job to you, but you haven't seen it. And you go home and you tell your wife or your mom or your kids, like, "I got this new opportunity. I'm so excited." That's because you're in a forming stage and they explained it to you. But in order to learn, what do they always have you do? You always shadow somebody. Seeing is believing. When I used to recruit people for Hyla, one of the difference makers that I always said for a new rep versus let me rephrase this. If I hired 2 new reps, the difference between somebody actually having success in Hyla in their first little bit and not was, we said, the ones that saw a sale within their first week, witnessed somebody else do it, had a much higher rate of staying with the company and ultimately becoming a good performer or a top performer, was because they saw it. Seeing is believing. And so when you're struggling, especially in like entrepreneurship or, like I said, sales or baking a cake, when you're getting discouraged, when things aren't working out the way that you think they should, it's very important that you go get help and witness how to do the right thing. This is one reason YouTube took off. One, it's for the people that make entertainment. People love to be entertained. But second, there's so many how-to videos. I used YouTube, podcasts, and audiobooks to basically gain most of my sales knowledge when every time I was struggling, I had to see how it worked. And I would go to YouTube, or I would go shadow somebody, or I'd go find a rep, because I know if I'm in a storming stage, all of a sudden, hearing it isn't believable anymore. We have to see it. So, like, for our team at Second Team Consulting, if you're a new rep and you're making cold calls for us and you're trying to set up an appointment for me, Josh, or Adam to go in and, try to help that business grow with their, whatever we need to do for their business. We're not just digital marketing. That's why we're called Second Team Consulting. We cover all aspects of business growth. But when you're trying to set an appointment, if you're not getting through to people and you're starting to get discouraged and you're entering that storming stage, it's very crucial that you make sure you're getting on the trainings, or that you go and find somebody that you can shadow, because you have to see success to believe it. Seeing is believing. Now, just like I said last video, if you push through that and you get to these next two stages, which is where the magic happens, that's where success comes from, we enter into that norming stage, or that conscious competence, where we know what we're doing, but we have to think about it. And for norming, that's rising skill and growing excitement. We're starting to see success. We're starting to be happy again. Our confidence is building. And when we're in that stage, it's very important that we realize we don't need to keep shadowing and demonstrating. I mean, we can always do it to get better, but we're in what we want to go through, and the teaching edge is the next letter. So explain, demonstrate. This one is guide. You don't need somebody there doing all the work for you and showing you success. At this point, this is where you need to be building your own confidence and going, but it's important to have a mentor or a guide, somebody that you can go to with a question, somebody that, when you're lost and confused and you feel yourself starting to get discouraged again, can guide you and help you make the right decisions or learn the next skill in whatever step you're doing, whether it's the cake building, sales, entrepreneurship, or in the scouting example. They got really discouraged, and then he came and showed them how to do it. But being a good leader, he still had them do it. And the second time he stood there, he let them do it, but he was there to guide them if they had a question. And then if we push through and we keep going through these 4 stages, we get to what we call performing, where all of the magic happens. We're now confident. We know what we're doing. We're in unconscious competence. We don't have to think about it. In my last video, I used the example of driving a car. When you first go into driver's ed, you're excited, and then you all of a sudden get super discouraged. I remember going through that, where I was like, wait, there's so many things I've got to realize and know, and like, how am I going to learn all this? And I thought it was just you hit the gas, hit the brake, turn the wheel, you get discouraged. And then as I went on some test drives and I drove with my parents with my permit, I got into, norming stage, where I started to feel better. I'd have to think when to put the blinker on. This is one reason why the state makes somebody be in the car with you, is you need that guide. You need somebody there. And then now I'm in a performing stage. I'm driving and I'm listening to music. I don't have to think, when do I hit the brake? When do I hit the blinker? That stuff just happens. Same with entrepreneurship. Same with sales skills. I remember my first summer when I was going door to door for an alarm company down in Amarillo, Texas. That first year, I was terrible. I could not sell an alarm for anything. I couldn't even give one away. It was absolutely terrible. But lucky for me, I had a good leader who, even though he didn't know these 4 stages and the teaching edge consciously, it's the same path he used to teach me. And by the end of the summer, I could get into anybody's house. That's one reason when I started with Hyla, my first month I was the top rep, because I had a teacher that whole first summer that took me and taught me in these 4 stages, and it built my confidence, and it became performing. In fact, when I went on my first ride along with Hyla, the rep that I was shadowing, and he sold that machine in that house, but the whole time I was like, I can do it better. I would have asked this question. I would have built more rapport. Didn't do very good at getting emotion going. Like that stuff you can learn, And as you get to performing, that's where the magic happens. That's where the confidence comes. If you are with Second Team Consulting and you're watching this video, if you notice, Josh and I don't really have to think about what we're going to say on the phone. It just kind of happens. Josh is incredible. In fact, he's way better than me. Even I listen to him and I'm like, damn, he got like, that was butter. It was just the smoothest pitch ever, and that's why he's at 100% closing rate right now. Well, he didn't start out that way. I guarantee he was terrified. Like, when he first got into phone sales, he was super nervous when he got on the phone the first couple times. He went through the storming stage. He built confidence, and now he's performing, and I guarantee he learned, even if you don't have a teacher, follow these steps for yourself, but he learned with this EDGE method. It first was explained to him, whether through like YouTube or, you know, your sales manager or your boss, or if you're starting a business, you go find a mentor. It's explained to you. And then when it starts to get to be a struggle, you go find somebody to show it to you. And then you have somebody there as a mentor to guide you until you become a performer. And then guess what? This is where the magic happens. And this is where confidence and you start getting success. But for me, this is where the true joy comes from. Once you become a performer, now you're the mentor or the guide for new people. And the most fun you will ever have is helping other people get to the success level you're at now, or the confidence level. Nobody goes, like I always say, for personal development, my idol, Ed Mylett. I love that man. I've read all of his books. I listened to his podcast. I've listened to his tapes. I've even gone underground on the internet and found stuff from his early days when he was training his own company. Like, Ed Mylett's my mentor. Ed Mylett mentors through his digital presence like 10 million people. I can't have direct contact with them. So I have to go find somebody close. You are most qualified. This is a direct Ed Mylett quote, but you're most qualified to help the person you used to be. So, like, I remember being a struggling sales guy 10 years ago where, like, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to build rapport. I didn't know how to pitch. I didn't know how to ask questions. I didn't know how to build value. My closing, horrendous. I didn't know any of that stuff. But as I grew through these steps and I recognized these stages, I now know that stuff, and I can go help tons of people that want to start their own businesses, their own careers. If you're with Second Team, I can help you grow and build with us. Just like I have mentors where I'm trying to get to their stage. I'm not saying I'm a god, not by no means. I'm not insinuating that at all, but I'm qualified to help the person I used to be, which is a beginning struggling salesperson. In my business career, me and my friend Nick built a pretty good company, but we made some major mistakes that caused it to fail. If you've watched some of my earlier videos on my YouTube, you can hear the story. There's stuff I don't know, but I realize it's all a process, and I'm going to learn that stuff through steps like this. And then once I get to where I wouldn't say I'm a sales expert, but I'm a business expert, guess what? Then I'm going to go find a mentor and follow the 4 stages to get to the next level. Maybe that's a major company, but it's whatever your journey is. It's just like if you want to be a pro athlete or good in sports or, you know, starting a business or hiking or camping, whatever your dream is, if you realize there's these processes, there's these steps on learning, and that this is a journey, you get to become a performer, and the most joy you will ever have is helping somebody else get better. I remember, and this is going to be my closing thought for today, but I remember there was this couple that worked for Nick and I as salespeople. And the wife was actually a really good salesperson. She was one of our first recruits. She shadowed me all the time, really learned. Her husband joined the company as a sales rep about a year later, and he was not great at sales. In fact, I would say he was pretty terrible. But I'll never forget, and this has been, like, sometimes I even still get emotional about it. But one day in sales meeting, after the meeting, I pulled him across and said, "Where are you really struggling?" And he said, "In closing." And I worked with him on closing for an hour and said, "Just copy what I'm telling you." And he went into a demonstration and he sold it. And he called me after almost crying because he just made $800 and it had been his wife making all the money, and they were struggling a little bit. And he said, "Mark, you really helped me. Like, I'm going to be able to buy my house or give my son a good birthday this year. Thank you. Like, you have no idea what you've done for me and my family. And I have a tear forming right now. And nothing brought me more joy ever in my career. I've made $10,000 in a week, which for some people that's nothing. Some people are making that in a minute. But I've for me that's a big success coming from small farm town Idaho. But like having him come and say, "Hey, you just helped me make $800. You're changing my life. Thank you." That feeling and that moment has meant more to me than the first time I made 5 grand in a week. Like those moments help. And so when you go through these steps, realize you can become that performer, which enables you to be a mentor for somebody else. And at least for me, you guys decide what's important to you. But for me, that's where the most joy comes from, is from helping somebody that's struggling and going through, the hard times in whatever their journey is, helping them become a performer, which helps me get better. I'm sure you guys have heard this quote, but they always say, you're not really a master until you can teach it. And that's where I find joy, which is one reason why I love leading the sales team here with Second Team, is I get to help you guys learn and grow every day. And so that's my video for today. Remember the teaching edge. It's pretty simple. It stands for explain, demonstrate, guide, and enable. And I hope I can enable you in some way to go and chase your dreams, because that's what this life is all about. Thanks, guys.